Hi guys, Simon Trezelyan here, the voice of reason, and welcome back to part 3 of Global Storytime. So I left you with one of the pathogens used to control the animals on this fictitious farm in this story. And this one was of course the alpha IDS, which was used very specifically. Now if you're a farmer and you've got certain animals to control, you've got to look at the difference between the animals. So a sheep is very different to a cow, which is very different to a pig, right? Now, where would you find such information? Well, you would probably have to look into their DNA, because in their DNA there is very specific programming, and therefore if you are able to create what you wanted to push onto these animals and gear it and target it in such a manner, then you would look for the keys within the DNA. And this is exactly what has happened. And we hear this a lot with swine flu, bird flu, bovine disease, mad cow disease, all of that type of thing. So we know that it exists. Now, what we also know is that you need warm-blooded animals to be able to nurture whatever it is you're going to place into it so that they can pass it on. And once it passes on, it needs to be replicated through that DNA, and the only way you can do that is by a virus. Okay, and so what you've got to do is you introduce a virus which is specifically geared to the animal. Now, so in this global farm, that in this story, much of the people that are looking at this story would be asking, well, how would you control certain animals? The answer is exactly as I've just said with the DNA. So for instance, if a lot of the animals were oriental, for instance, where there was a big influx of massive amounts of animals that were potentially a threat and you would need to depopulate those animals, then you would create something that was specific to that genome, and you would make it almost Asian, wouldn't you? And you would introduce it through the animals in that continent, and you would need a biolab perhaps in that continent. I don't know, somewhere obscure, like probably beginning with W or something. And it's at that point the farmer needs to create something which is called gain of function. Now, gain of function would actually mean that you turn it into something that you can use. So rather than it being just a random disease, you can actually target it, because you don't want to lose your good flock. You only want to lose the bad flock. So that's one way of dealing with the Eastern animals. So let's look at the Middle Eastern animals, because they too have a very specific genome. Now I wonder whether there would be something that you could use for that. Oh yeah, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. So that this would target the lungs of the animals, wouldn't it? That were specifically geared to that genome. That would sort out a lot of things if you had problems with the animals, say, I don't know, in the Middle East perhaps. I mean, that'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? It would save having to use different types of munitions. You just release it, I suppose, through, I don't know, camels, something like that, goats. And then, interesting, because the alpha IDS one was geared towards the black population. That's why so many black animals were actually seen to be targeted. And there's that other one, wasn't it? Wasn't it called beginning with E? Yeah, we had some threats of an outbreak amongst the animals, but it never really came about because it was highly transmittable, but it actually wasn't deadly enough, not for the farmer. So what would the farmer do? So if I was a farmer and I wanted to cull some of these animals in this story, I would want something that was highly transmittable and was highly deadly, but only towards the type of animals that I wanted to get rid of, all the undesirable ones. So that's what I would look at. What would I do? Well, the echo virus, would be good, yeah, and the flu, perhaps that would be good. But how about absolutely adding a thing called, well, what's that place called? In this story. Fictitious place called Marburg, I think it was. And that was really deadly. So if you could splice together something that could go out all over, but would target just the type of animals that you didn't want, because it would really affect the animals that perhaps didn't have homes to go to. So you would want to get rid of those, yeah. And then it would target the ones that needed lots of medication. Yeah, you'd get rid of those too. And of course you want to get rid of the old ones because they have no working value anymore. So you'd need to get rid of them in the story. Yeah. And I wonder if you could actually release that into some of the areas where a lot of these animals were really, really tightly controlled, like, big places where with lots of buildings where these animals would congregate, and then you'd release it into there. Possibly you might even use the trains to do that. I wonder if that could be a thing. The farmers probably already thought of that. Anyway, it's just a story, and who knows? But one day, I think the farmer's just feeling a little bit anxious right now, because you know what? The animals are waking up. Oh my God. And what happens when the animals wake up? And they go, oh, what's been going on? Because the farmer has altered their water, and he's put stuff in the water so their eye won't open and it will calcify so they won't wake up. And I wonder if he was able to take out the nutrition in the foods by modifying some of that life essence of the food so it had no nutritional value, so that the bodies wouldn't actually become better. I wonder if that could be a thing. So when you think about it, air, water, food, that's what you'd need to control. Now, how would you control the air? Well, apart from putting things in, I wonder if when I look up, I sometimes see these lines in the sky, and I wonder whether the farmer has thought of these lines in the sky being able to deliver the message to the animals. That would be something, wouldn't it? So air, water, food, life. But sometimes you've got to keep the animals in their pen, because the more that the animals talk to other animals, the more animals wake up and they see what is really happening. Wow. Of course, this is just a story. It is. It's just a story. I totally made all this up. And if you were to look and research yourself, you'd find your answers. You don't need me. I'm just a guide. I'm just a messenger. And I like telling stories. Now, some of you have asked whether my story is going to be turned into books. They already are. 25 of them, in fact. And we're about to launch next month. The first 10. Watch this space. Share this video. Start to wake up other animals, if you see the need. This is Simon Giselian. Some thoughts for today. Out to you.